Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Write Your Book podcast, because that's what we're going to talk about this evening. We're going to talk about a very core element of the structure of how to write your book. The most common issue I get in our author program, or if I'm coaching authors one-on-one, is that they feel stuck. And this can happen at any point in time in the book process. So it's very normal to have that writer's block or to feel as if you're stuck, which means congratulations, you are on your way to being an author, because you wouldn't be stuck as a writer if you didn't have writer's block, right? So don't worry, don't stress about it. What that really is overwhelm. Especially today, I see this now more than I did 15 years ago. Our brain is wired for input, processing, and output. And oftentimes our brains get so much information that it's difficult and challenging to process everything that we're receiving. So your brain's like a computer and you're intaking everything there is on writing a book, for instance. If you go to Instagram, Facebook, Google, and you've inputted how do I write a book, or how many pages should my book be, or how do I outline a book, chances are the algorithm is going to drop you information on a daily basis, and minute by minute you are getting an influx of information. What happens is then it becomes far more difficult to make any rational decision, because now you're faced with a plethora of choices. You've got information coming at you from AI, from regular authors, from editors, from people that want to take your money, from all kinds of people that want to sell you coaching. Everything. You've got this plethora of information. There is so much misinformation, of course, because you're making decisions based on input that's coming from random sources. So if it's AI, the way AI processes information, or the internet processes information, is taking existing data from sources that may or may not be credible. So you don't necessarily know who is putting this information out there on how to outline a book, for instance. And AI may say, okay, you have to have 29 chapters, and here's where you start. Here's our suggestions, right? So that's not actually true. You don't have to have 29 chapters. And now I'm just using examples to ease your mind as a writer and let you know that overwhelm is common. It's really not writer's block. It's like writer's overload, because you've got so much information in your quest for information. So the first step as a new author is to stop researching, because even though you want to know how to write a book, all of that research is going to possibly produce wrong information. You've got wrong information coming into your computer and your brain, and then you've got a lot of conflicting information, which will cause that blockage. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is stop researching. Second thing is start writing. And how do you do that? So that's another question that I get, is how do I start writing? What program can I use? And the answer to that is, those of us in publishing houses, editors, agents, what we do is we only use a Word document. That's it. So at the end of the day, we don't want Google Docs. We don't want a living document. We don't want anything else. We don't want a PDF. We want a Word document. So that is called a manuscript. So as an author, our first step is to try to reach manuscript status. And in order to do that, we need to start writing. So open up a Word document and just start writing and telling your stories. So remember, writers write, and writing a book is not about research. It's not about anything except telling the story that you yourself want to tell about your life, your experiences, and whatever topic you have wisdom and knowledge on. So now that we know that writers write, open up a Word document, download Word, and create your skeleton draft of a manuscript, I'm going to talk to you about the structure of how a book is built. Because once you've got your Word document open and you're starting to write, you may start wondering, well, how do I structure this into chapters? But you don't have to worry about exact structure. Each chapter, let's say it's between 4 to 6 to 10 pages on average. It can be any of the above, okay? So each chapter is just going to flow from your heart and your mind based on your prior experiences. Then once you've got all of the stories down, we call that a manuscript. And then it's time, and only then is time for editing. So we don't want to jump the gun, because the last step is editing. Oftentimes when I get a manuscript, it'll have all kinds of errors, misspellings in it. That's perfectly okay. Even John Grisham, even the most professional best-selling authors, they submit a manuscript and they have a professional editor at the publishing house that edits, someone like me that puts it all together and does a structural edit of the manuscript and then bounces it back to the author with recommendations and suggestions. So that's the normal flow of writing a book. Now, when authors get in trouble is when they start getting hung up on the details. How many pages should it be? Well, the answer is there are books that are 50 pages. There are books that are 200 pages. If you want to know how many pages it shouldn't be, America has a short attention span, and I can only say you really don't want it to be over 300 if you can help it. If it is, it's not the end of the world. There's a lot of bestsellers that are larger books. If it's like a historical fiction or something like that. But if you are writing a book that's perhaps a memoir or a self-help genre, try to keep it shorter rather than longer. I always love under 250. I love, at least 180, between 180 and 250 pages is perfect. But again, don't get hung up on the number of pages. Just focus on your manuscript, because writing a book is like building a house. You'll hear me say this a lot, and I'll talk about this in the next podcast and what exactly that house looks like when it comes to book structure. So, writers write, happy writing.